This room is our dumping ground, and it felt so overwhelming. I didn't have as much time as I anticipated, so I didn't do a deep clean or even a wipe down, but I did a satisfying pickup and it really refreshed the space. Isn't that how it goes? We know what must get done, but we procrastinate because we don't have time. Or we feel so overwhelmed that we don't know where to start. Or it doesn't feel worth it to start if we know we can't finish the task. Or sometimes we're tired and burnt out, or even just lazy. I don't know if you're like this, but I tend to feel overwhelmed easily. It doesn't take much for me to feel flustered, but I have been thinking a lot about this quote from Allie Beth Stuckey lately. Do the next best thing in faith, with excellence, and for the glory of God. So let's break that down a little bit, starting with do the next best thing. This is that motivation that I need to just get started. Doing the next best thing can mean things like sharing the gospel with your friend, or holding your tongue when you're feeling sassy, or choosing a kind response to your preschooler's 500th question of the day. Sometimes it's putting our phones down and picking up our Bible or praying to God. Sometimes it's going to church instead of sleeping in on Sunday morning. But sometimes it's just picking up a cluttered space. This past Sunday, our pastor preached a wonderful message about pleasing God this year. And honestly, that can feel overwhelming. I know how much I sin. I know how much I mess up. And even with my pastor's helpful life applications, it can just feel like looking at a dumping ground room that you have to clean. But then I remember, I just have to do the next right thing. I just have to please God in this moment. I'll never be perfect. I'll never be able to earn my salvation. That was a gift. But I can look at the next best thing and do it. Not to make myself feel better, not to please my family, and not to put on a show for anyone, but to please God. Hebrews 11:6 says, "And it is impossible to please God without faith. Anyone who wants to come to him must believe that God exists and that he rewards those who sincerely seek him." If you're familiar with the Bible, you'll know that this is the faith chapter where it lists the many heroes of our faith. But notice what it says about all of them. Hebrews 11:13 says, "All these people died still believing what God had promised them. They did not receive what was promised, but they saw it all from a distance and welcomed it." We can't insert ourselves into scripture. We are not on that list. We are not Sarah or Noah or anyone else listed, but we can learn that God was pleased by their faith. Because they trusted in the Lord, they worked hard for him, and we can strive to do the same in our homes. God is pleased by our work. God is pleased when we joyfully clean our home, educate our children, cook nourishing meals, and any other menial task we may do when we do it with joy and gratitude because we have faith that we're working for a greater purpose. May we do these tasks with eyes on eternity so one day we'll hear, "Well done." I realize that in order to have faith that what I am doing in my daily tasks matters in eternity, I must do it for the Lord. And when you give your days to God, it's hard to give things half effort. Without my focus on God with excellence would be non existent to me. But when I do the next right thing in faith for the Lord, excellence is unavoidable. But when we lose sights on God, it's easy to let things fall apart. I find the before footage of this room to be very convicting. This particular room got this way because I wasn't giving my best to the Lord. I was being lazy and self centered and wasn't a good steward of my time or my home. Now, please do not misunderstand. I am by no means projecting that conviction onto you. Not every mess we make is due to sin, so please do not take it that way. But this particular mess that you are looking at on your screen right now was. And honestly, I cleaned it up for me, not for the glory of God. But I can't help but wonder how my attitude of cleaning this room would have been different if I had focused on the Lord. But I decided to learn from this and to take that conviction to heart. I'm going to be very intentional this February and beyond to approach my homemaking tasks in faith, with excellence, and for the glory of God. And I'm going to try to not get too caught up in my own mind and overwhelm and instead focus on doing the next right thing and doing so in a way that pleases the Lord. So I encourage you to join me. Let's spend February 2024, or the next 30 days if you're watching this at a later date, training ourselves to fix our minds on heaven when it comes to our homemaking. Again, having a perfect home is not going to get us into heaven. I'm not saying that. That's not where our salvation comes from. But when we live in such gratitude for what Jesus has done for us, how can we not give our best to Him in our homes? So let's do our work, not because of some arbitrary to do list, but instead let's do it to please God.